Podcasts, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast.
There are 4 lights!
Its 5-year mission to explore strange, familiar worlds, to seek out new listeners and new civilizations, to boldly go where most nerds have gone before. Join Matt and Shirley on their 5-year mission with a different guest each week as they talk about an episode of Star Trek, from the original series through Enterprise. They'll cover every episode, eventually.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to There Are 4 Lights. I'm here with my co-host. I didn't scream that bad. I'm here with my co-host Shirley.
Hello.
And I'm Matt, and this week we are joined by our guest star and host, Joe. Joe, it just occurs to me I don't think I know your last name. Joe from Geeky Faucets. Say hi, Joe. Oh, did we lose him?
Oh, no.
Did we really? Okay. There he is.
No. I'm here. I did start to lose you for a second, but we're good. And I think at Geeky Faucet is my last name.
At Geeky Faucet,
at this point, yeah.
At Geeky Faucet.
But
go ahead, Joe.
I will take this opportunity to say what I always say, which is I think you said Geeky Faucets with an S on the end. Which is 2 lovely ladies that live in the Colorado area that do a video podcast.
Well, Joe, you're always a lovely lady in our heart.
Oh, thank you. Hey, I'm pretty sure you put me next to them too, and you'll easily forget that I'm in the room. So I'll put it to you this way: Geeky Faucet is a website and podcast that I started to kind of just talk about stuff, pop culture, geek-oriented things that I geek out for, not necessarily that are geeky in everyone's definition. But either way, site's been up and down. Podcast has been here and there, alive and dead, and back and forth a couple times. But that's just because of the real life responsibilities. But I appreciate being on the show. Thank you for having me. I love the chance to talk about things that I think are funny or entertaining. So I'm really looking forward to talking about some face-sucking aliens.
Right on. Yeah, so this is episode 2 of There Are 4 Lights. This one we're going to touch on the second episode of the original series, season 1, The Man Trap.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, dun, 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 yeah. So, Shirley, you want to give us a kind of an overview? Remember, this is spoiler filled. Spoiler filled.
Yeah, I think the statute of limitations on spoilers have passed on
a little bit, by a decade or 5.
Yeah, by 5 for sure.
So we are following the intrepid crew of the Star Trek Enterprise onto a planet where Bones is doing a checkup on the 2. What are they like?
He's Mr. Dr. Crater. Dr. Crater is an archaeologist.
Archaeologist, yeah. One of those ologists. And I guess, I didn't know it, but Star Trek is supposed to go and visit the outer planets and do routine checkups on all the people that are out there at least once a year.
Yeah.
And Leonard Nimoy. No. Oh my God.
DeForest Kelley plays Dr. Bones.
DeForest Kelley. Dr.
Leonard McCoy.
Jeez, that's where I got Leonard Nimoy.
I know. Shirley loves Star Trek, guys. I promise. She's actually seen these episodes before.
So, Bones, Dr. McCoy, I guess on the way down or before, was talking to, what's-his-face, which is the captain. Oh,
Kirk?
My God. Kirk.
Captain What's-His-Face, that's actually it.
Captain What's-His-Face, Captain Kirk, and come to find out that his ex-wife?
Yeah, his ex-girlfriend. Although I have theories.
Planet, and
we'll tie those theories in
very
later.
anxious to meet her again. And that's the beginning of it.
Do you want to go through the rest of the plot, since this is an overview of the entirety of the plot? Or do you want me to take it from here? I can.
Well, and then it comes down to there's something killing the people that come down, the crew that came down with them. Nobody knows what it is, and follow through I don't know how to do this part of it.
That's okay. So something is killing the
out?
crew. And Nancy Crater, the wife of Dr. Crater, not Mr. Dr. Crater, just Dr.
Mr. Dr. Crater.
Yeah, I like that. So the wife, Nancy, is suspect because she's acting weird, and there's some strange things, and there's a weirdness because when McCoy, Kirk, and Darnell, the other crew members, when they first see her, they see three different women.
Random crewman C, we'll call it.
Yeah. This time he was wearing a green shirt, or a gold shirt, not a red shirt. That's important.
That is.
Right.
They all see a different woman, a very different woman. Nancy looks young and vibrant like Dr. McCoy remembers him. Kirk sees this, not older lady, but an appropriately aged woman. And then Darnell sees this hot blonde.
Okay.
That looks nothing like the other two.
So here we go. We break off on tangent number 1. I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Which of the 3 women did you find most attractive? Because I definitely feel like it was the gray-haired Nancy.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not saying that because of some weird gray hair fetish. What I mean to say is that the young Nancy was, if you ask me, specifically made up to look really young. A lot of makeup on. The hair was like jet black. It didn't look natural. And then the blonde was just, a bimbo blonde. And, she was there to pretend like, it was every man's fantasy in the time period. But the gray-haired Nancy, even though she, like you said, appropriately aged, she wasn't elderly. But she looked, of the 3, she looked the most natural. Like, every time that Kirk would see her, I'd say, is that because of, like, in my mind, I'm like, what has he seen her like that for? Like, why is that, like, going on? And in the back of my mind, I just thought, she's probably the cutest of the 3. That's tangent number 1. We can get back to the plot.
I found the blonde's hair to be very off-putting.
Yeah, it was.
I don't like 60s hair, so that might be why.
No, I'm with you. It wasn't attractive the way it was done up the hair, and she was a little over the top, like, tall blonde, too much like what I guess the poster girl for
1960
hot go-go girls,
yeah. So after we see these 3 weird women. Dr. Crater shows up. Nancy leaves. Dr. Crater shows up. Ensign Darnell? I think it's just Darnell. I don't even know that he had a rank. Darnell goes missing. They find him dead. He's got mottled skin. And a mystery ensues. Eventually, whatever's causing it gets up on the ship. Turns out that it's Nancy, but not Nancy. It's this creature, the last of her kind, from planet M113. That's the name of the planet.
Because that's the 113th
M-class
planet that they found.
This is Shirley's hypothesis. I'm not saying it's unsupported, but it's solid.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how they count them.
But this creature craves salt. Turns out it's sucking the salt out of bodies. We get to meet Yeoman Rand for the first time.
And I didn't know we couldn't survive without salt.
Yeah, you die. That's when you have to balance your electrolytes. That's all salt. So we see Yeoman Rand for the first time. We see a creepy, weird puppet hand flower. That was awesome.
The puppet hand flower was the highlight of the episode. It was the attack dog of the lab there. When the alien walked in, it was certainly like going ballistic.
Yeah, Matt and I were kind of really pleasantly surprised that Sulu was the botanist.
Yeah, I didn't know that. The ship's pilot and botanist. Like that's surprising.
Also, does he have a totally unrelated, like, 60s blonde that just brings him food whenever he wants it?
No, that's Yeoman Rand.
Oh, okay. When you said you see Yeoman Rand for the first time, in the back of my mind, I'm just like, this is only the episode 2, so there's a lot of people you're seeing for the first time. But the fact that she's bringing him food, and, like, somebody made a comment about, wouldn't you like to have... one of the guys said something about it. It was one of those, like, lines that stuck in my head because I thought, I guess, but then if you're, hanging around plants all day, anybody coming to say hi would be nice when you're not flying the ship anyway. So
eventually, they realize that the alien is on the ship and that it's clearly one of the crew members. They very inefficiently search the ship for it, like the most inefficient way possible. Like, I don't know, maybe you should just check and see where all the crew are. and then when you have two of somebody.
Yeah, and I think, like, that made me think, okay, they really haven't thought out what this century would be like, because you're like, you just push a button and you see everybody's signatures, and, oh, hey, there's an extra one, which they do on TNG several times. I just don't think that they
thought that far. Yeah, well, and this is also, I mean, we've got to keep in mind that Star Trek at this point, especially at this point, is groundbreaking. Space breaking, if you will. Yeah, I liked it. Hey, it was funny to me.
Oh my god.
Space breaking. I'll tell you what, the only thing that they broke was, they almost broke my TV when the 16th glamour shot of Captain Kirk popped up on my screen. Is everybody else tired of like the wax lens every time they show him?
That's what we need to count.
I honestly didn't notice it.
Oh, every time come on. Every time they show a close-up, especially at the part in the beginning when they're showing Nancy, Bones, and Kirk all having the discussion, and they keep kind of going face to face. Every time they zoom in on Kirk and they show him close, he's got like this slight shadow across his face, and there's like a wax lens. It's like totally glamour shot. It makes you think how vain was William Shatner, that he was like, I need the effects to make my skin glow.
And maybe it was me, and that's just the way I see him in that time. Like, I just expect to see him in that visual, because that's all the pictures I've seen. I've never watched any of these episodes before, so maybe that's a big part of it.
I've seen a handful of the episodes, and like I said, I'm not a huge follower of every character and everything, but I mean, in general, like any sci-fi show, I've got things I like about it, things I don't, and one of the things, and getting into the cinematography, is the overtly 60s era camera techniques, like the glamour shot, like, wax lens, I call it, like, like basically like it just being like feathered out, like embossed and feathered. And then what's the other thing I'm thinking that they do all the time that really bothers me, that I can't think of right now. I'm sorry. There was something else I noticed.
Okay.
I noticed about the episode, but I mean, other than that, there's a lot of effects.
A really crazy eye close up, like in Vertigo with.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's constantly close-ups where like somebody's face is the entire screen.
Yeah.
That's a little bit much, but then there's a lot of good stuff. Like they did use a lot of really awesome effects, given the time period of the show. And
honestly, the change between when the salt creature was changing between people, it was a little clunky, but I was kind of impressed
by how smooth it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's clunky by today's standards, but today's standards, they would have spent like $1 million on each one of those transitions.
Oh yeah, you can't compare it to today at all.
Yeah, they were smooth enough. I was for 64. I was really impressed. So
yeah, I mean, and even when you get down to like the effects of the transporter whenever they beam on and off, I mean, considering the time period, very little color flicker and discoloration of the film in like when they superimpose the picture. It's well done. I thought, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about it that every time I watch any of the episodes from the original series, I'm always impressed. And I'm impressed at how sharp the picture looks, considering how old the shouldn't say how old the film is, because it's really not aged, but how old the technology is.
And they digitized these really well. There are some other movies that we watched, especially for Criterion Collection, where the digitizing didn't work well. The film had degraded. We actually even watched a film where they were missing part of it. It was Things to Come. They were missing a chunk of the film and couldn't find it anywhere, and it was expected to be lost. And then finally they found a part of it, but it was on, instead of 16 millimeter, it was on 8 millimeter, and it had a different soundtrack, and it was really weird to watch that transfer back and forth. But this one,
kind of like watching Eraserhead.
Yeah.
You watch that and you go, "What is this that I'm watching?"
Yeah. So eventually the monster gets caught. Kirk tricks it with some salt.
Yep.
And then we get to see Spock beat up a little bit, and
it's hilarious. Best fight ever. If this person, could they take this?
Yeah.
And beat this woman about the face for 5 seconds while everybody screams no, but nobody jumps on Spock.
And she just lets it happen. The creature just like stands there and lets it happen. Doesn't try and block any of them. Just
takes it.
Ugh. And then we get the reveal of the nasty, evil-looking salt creature. I'm just going to keep calling it a salt creature.
Yeah, salt creature is perfect for me. I don't know. I don't know what they were actually called, but gray-haired tentacle fingers.
Yeah, those were weird. They kept getting these mottled spots on the faces of the people that died, and they couldn't figure it out. And I couldn't figure it out either. I just didn't realize it. But there were like suction cups on the fingers. It was gross.
I think it's funny because I did not see this in its original run. Just telling you that.
Yeah, you're not that old.
But I watched it with my dad on reruns, so I'm like, oh, I know exactly what this is, and Matt's like looking at me all confused, and I'm like,
yeah. I have to say the costuming for the creature was sufficiently creepy. A little, you could see that it was a costume, but it wasn't bad. I didn't
understand the fishnet because there is no water
that you're aware of. This is the last of its kind. Maybe that creature once had. I don't know. I've got nothing.
Lakes.
No, it was unexplainable.
Yeah, women wear fishnets today, and they don't fish.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
Hilarious.
So the two big, we'll slide on over to the guest stars. The two big guest stars were Jean Ball, who played Nancy, and also older Nancy, and then Alfred Reiter, who played Dr. Crater. Alfred Reiter was actually in quite a bit of stuff. He was in True Grit, which he had a decent sized role in that, and then he has a long list of movies and TV shows that he was in all through the 60s and 70s.
He's one of those guys that when you see his face, you're like, oh, I've seen this guy in 100 things, like on different old reruns. I mean, if you're into watching some of the old TV, and luckily for us, there's plenty of channels on cable where you can watch old stuff. And catch a lot of these older actors from that time period that used to make the rounds that were all over it. But I mean, I got to say something because you made a joke there. At least there was laughter that came out. But the older Nancy, this is another thing because I'm also the type of guy that when I'm watching a show or a movie and I'm planning on speaking about it, I try to make mental notes. And I only make written notes if I'm really, really nitpicking. But I'm not nitpicking to the nth degree here. Just at one point, Bones is like, oh, she looks like she hasn't aged a day since the last time I've seen her. And, somebody, Kirk, I guess, says something along the lines of, are you sure she hasn't aged and something? And then there's a comment made where, well, she looks like she hasn't. Another line when he says it looks like she hasn't aged a day since the last time I saw her, which was like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Does anybody else think that? Again, I felt like the older Nancy didn't look old except for the gray hair. Like it was like they had these gray hairs worked in, but she looked like she was probably in her like mid-30s.
Yeah.
Then the other Nancy, who they tried to make up to look like she was like 20. But does anybody else think that? Do they really think that people's hair goes from like jet black to like mostly gray in 12 years? It happens.
Depends on how much stress you go under.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying it happens. But if you ask me, they really tried to make her look like she was so much older. And with the hair, if they had just had her hair the same color with a little like couple strands of gray and no makeup on like they had her, she would have looked like probably 10 years younger than what they tried to make her look like.
Yeah. The makeup did make her look older.
They were trying to make her look older, and I thought the whole time they just said it was like 10 or 12 years. Like what? I mean, like is that in the 60s? Was somebody 10 years older, like ancient?
Well, and you have to remember this is during the youth movement of the 60s, so maybe. I mean, there was also a belief at that time that you hit a certain point and you were old, like.
Yeah.
And this is the time of Logan's Run coming out, and there is a mentality within the youth, especially. So if they're trying to gear this towards the youth at all, that might have been done on purpose. I like to think fancy thoughts.
I just think that when they said that thing about the years, I thought, whoa. I think there's the telling tale of age on this TV show, because
Yeah.
it's just, that's such a mindset, regardless of whether or not you think 10 years is a big deal, because it's obviously 10 years is nothing. It's a blink of an eye once you hit 20. Once you get past 20 and 30, 10 years is like 5 years or 2 years when you're in your teens. So it's like one of those things where I definitely get the difference, but maybe because the show was garnered, and designed to be youthful and, like you said, part of this youth movement, especially being science fiction. But it just was really odd to me, and it stuck out. And when you just made that comment, I realized I did want to at some point here point out that I felt like that was a very not related to the plot of the show, but a very like interesting point that they kind of really tried to lay it on thick about, like that she looked so different. But would it really be hard to believe that she looked pretty close to the same if it's only been 10 to 12 years?
Yeah, I mean, a wrinkle here or there, I could see that, but yeah, there was a definite.
Hey, look, I got some gray hairs in my beard, and I got some, thinning hair and all the other stuff that anybody who's, been through, their 30s has, but it's kind of hard for me to sit here and say that a woman or a man, either one, if you see them when they're 25 and then you see them again when they're 35, yeah, they're going to look different. But again, I feel like other than the gray hair, she didn't look that old to begin with, but they didn't have her wear any makeup, and they had her wear her hair up in like a much older haircut, more poofy, instead of the short bob and the trim that she had when she had the dark hair. And it just was really, it was off-putting, to me, to see that they made a comment about 10 to 12 years. I thought, man, maybe I'm getting old, so I'm taking offense to that.
Since we're talking about Nancy anyway and her relation to McCoy, I was telling Shirley while we were watching Star Trek last night, the 2009 movie with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, that when McCoy gets on the shuttle to go to the Academy, he makes a comment that his wife got the planet in the divorce.
Yeah.
And I was telling her I like to pretend that was Nancy. and in that timeline, they got married for some reason, and the divorce left him and pushed him into Star Trek, or into Starfleet.
That's kind of an interesting thought. Won't go off on a tangent about that movie, but for all the negativity around Into Darkness, I was generally pleased with those two.
Yeah. We watched those.
Have you been sheltering me?
From what?
From the negativity. I haven't heard anything bad about that movie.
Yes, you have. You just tuned Johnny out.
Oh, Into Darkness?
Okay.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
I couldn't take...
No, don't. It doesn't happen here. Not allowed on this channel.
So getting back on topic. We'll stay on topic.
Now I know why she hasn't heard any of the negativity.
Yeah, no kidding. We did find it odd that Uhura was overtly flirting.
Oh my gosh, I had never ever noticed that before.
Yeah.
Big time.
And I don't know if it's like that later in the series, because I've not seen the rest of the series, but if that's where they took the inspiration for that and put it in the new movies, I'm okay with that, because that's fine. But it was a little off-putting at the time. Not off-putting. It was very noticeable. It was very clear that it was against what I was expecting.
Oh yeah, it stood out. It stood out.
So, and then I have a phrase here, but I'm not sure where it comes from. It says, "Stop thinking with your glands," and I'm not sure what that's in reference to.
Oh, he said that. Yeah, Kirk says that to Bones.
Oh, okay.
Or to one of the guys. He says, "Stop thinking with your glands." I think he says it to Bones, but there was a couple other Kirkisms that need to be mentioned in this episode. In any podcast that we're going to do about Star Trek episodes, especially when we're talking about the original series and the whole run, every episode of this podcast needs to have a segment devoted to Kirkisms. Because there was the "stop thinking with your glands," but also there was another one. I can't remember verbatim what he says, but he says something along the lines of, something I don't like, and right now I got a real bellyache, or something like that. Okay. He says something along the lines of something that he's not like, that he doesn't feel as copacetic, and then he says, and right now I got a bellyache, and it's a beaut, or something like that.
Okay.
It's very, when he says it, you're like, okay, gotcha. Okay. Let me write that down.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I must have missed that one. I'll have to keep an eye out for ear out for those.
He's got some. They throw some lines to him, or he throws some lines in himself. I'm not sure, how that worked out, but he's got some lines in there that for sure are almost as special as his feathered glamour shot close-ups.
Have you heard his the clip of him arguing about how to pronounce sabotage?
No, I haven't.
It's floating out there on the internet, and I wish I could find it very quickly and be able to play it for you. But basically, it's him arguing with somebody on the set of Star Trek, and they recorded the audio but lost the video or something. And he's like, it's sabotage. Sabotage. I can say it's sabotage. I'm the star here. If I say it's sabotage, it's sabotage. And, like, it's just so asinine. Like, the way he's like, oh, well, I said it is this way, so ta-da, it is, ha-ha. Nothing you can do about it. It's sabotage now. It's just stuff like that makes me wonder, like, how much of a jerk Shatner was at the time.
Oh, I mean, I know he's had that kind of reputation throughout.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, every time they show a close-up of him and he's got that little bit of a glamour shot effect, or every time he makes like a real swarmy comment, there's just little parts of me that's like, I mean, like, how much influence did he have on it? Or did somebody kind of write it in that way? You'll never know 100% for sure, because they can say it happened one way or the other, but that's always, you're just waiting for somebody in the background to roll their eyes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's other moments in the episode where you realize how goofy he can be.
Oh, yeah.
Like when they're kind of running around hiding behind the little fake Stonehenge-looking structures.
And he's like prancing.
There's one point where he runs from one to the other, and he looks like he's doing like a Jim Carrey stutter step.
Dance or something. I was like,
yeah.
What is he doing?
Yeah,
I literally turned to Matt and I was like, what is he doing?
I was like, is this outtakes from Ace Ventura? Like, what's up with that like high step walk? He's like, ooh.
And it was phenomenal. Like,
yeah.
as ridiculous it was, like
I felt like Galaxy Quest took.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To hit a couple other things I noticed. I love the handles and the turbolips. I forgot all about them. I'm just so used to everything after the original series and no freaking handles, but like you have to hold a handle or you don't go anywhere. And that, I don't know. I like my handles or my turbolips
to have handles?
Handleless.
Whoa.
And then again, I have another phrase on here. I'm not quite sure who said it or where it came from, but somebody said something about being space happy. And I found that...
do you think he's getting space happy?
What was that? Who was it said about?
It was the crewman that she turned into to go up to the ship.
Oh, okay.
Remember he was walking around
Green.
following the salt shaker?
Yeah.
They kept calling him Crewman Green.
Yeah.
And Yeoman, what's her face?
Yeoman Rand. Yeoman Rand is important.
Rand. Fine. Rand. Yeoman Rand.
R-A-N-D.
Yeah, we got
it.
Yeoman Rand.
Roman Rand. Normally we have some recurring items I like to touch on, and by normally I mean this is the first time we're going to do it, but...
Hold on, I thought we did it last episode.
No, because last episode was the cage, and the cage was weird. Really weird.
Okay.
So, Bones doesn't quote a single bit of an I'm a doctor, not a anything.
He says, I'm a doctor, Jim, and I was waiting for him to say, I'm a doctor, not a...
Yeah, no, just...
And it didn't happen.
Kirk did not get the lady. There was no Kirk fun times with the ladies.
No, not at all.
There was what I feel like is a necessity in every episode, which is the animated banter between Kirk and Bones.
Oh yeah, which was
early in the episode too.
Yeah, it was good. It wasn't. I didn't feel quite right, but I think they're just getting their footing, and I think that's a part of it.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it's not an episode until the two of them talk to each other like they're mortal enemies. Kevin, it's gonna be something as easy as like them talking about like what they're gonna have for lunch. Jim, I don't want a ham sandwich. He's always got to say something like he's like ready to throw something at him.
Oh yeah. we didn't get to see Spock being overly logical while everyone else is clearly being emotional.
Well,
like,
there was the only part of the episode I think where they tried to touch on it was where Uhura was sitting like next to him, like batting her eyes, flirting, looking super hot, and him being like something or other about the ship, and people at the sick bay can worry about a guy who's dead that has nothing to do with me. Da 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 da. Yeah. So he had a little bit of the emotionless, but not necessarily overly logical.
Yeah. We had 0 red shirt deaths. However, we did lose three crewmen, 2 blue shirts and a gold shirt. The first guy that died, Darnell, was actually a blue shirt. I have that.
We have to have a running tally.
Yeah.
Like with every episode, we got to know how many of each color has passed.
I think we'll do that. We'll put that at the bottom. And do you ever watch The Sopranos?
I did.
On Amazon, when you look at the description of the show, it tells you how many people died in that episode and how many people have died total.
Yeah.
So we'll keep we'll keep a tally.
Yeah, we got to keep a tally. And the sad part is most times you can start making the tally marks before the episode's over, because every time one of these random crewmen show up as part of the team to go down, you're like, okay, this guy's not making it.
Yep. And then Uhura actually did something other than answer the phone. She hit on Spock. That was about it, though.
And let me add this again, looked super hot doing so.
Oh, yeah. We did not see Scotty or,
no.
What's the other crewman's name?
Chekhov,
but he doesn't come until season 2.
For real?
For real.
Wow.
So no Scotty in this one. No Montgomery Scott, and no Ensign Chekhov. So that was a little disappointing. I missed seeing them, but for whatever reason they're not here.
It's just the beginning.
It's early. Give it time. Let it breathe a little bit. Let it breathe.
Yep, absolutely. So that is episode 2 of the original series, The Man Trap.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to point out about it, Joe?
No, I think that we kind of got a chance to hit on most of the stuff that I found pretty good. I think the thing that the overwhelming theme with a lot of episodes from the original series, but certainly since this is episode 2, and I can certainly talk about episode 1, the theme that there's immediate tension whenever they come across somebody. It's as if that overwhelming paranoid suspicion. It's ever present that the second they come across Mr. Doctor and Nancy, they go into the room and they're talking, and it's immediately what are you doing on my planet? You don't need to be here.
Yeah.
Get away from me.
Yeah.
There's never in an episode of the show, and I'll be the first person to say I'm dead wrong when somebody calls me on it, because it probably does happen. Do they ever show up on a planet and people are like, hey, how are you? Thanks for coming down. Unless it's a total trap situation again. But the point is there's always contention immediately where there's this acceptable negativity, where it's another thing where I'm is that part of the acceptable way that people were always gruffly kind of suspicious of everything that went on? I mean, because science fiction or regular fiction or not fiction, it just seems to be ever present in the show. There's always a kind of a suave cockiness about Kirk, and everybody else is always I don't like you. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
It's just a theme. That's a theme that goes on and on.
And as you were talking, it kind of reminded me. I was this is very reminiscent of the TNG episode where the crew goes down onto an inhabited planet with a Mr. Doctor and his wife, and
where all the land is destroyed around there.
He's you can leave. You don't need to be here.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch both of them back to back to see how But she doesn't turn out to be a monster, but it's something.
I've watched that episode 3 or 4 times, and I still don't remember the ending and what happened in that one. But that's one we'll look at. I want to say that's first season. I remember Riker not having a beard for that one.
And I guess my last observation, totally to get back to, I guess, the comment at hand, was, did anybody else think the salt-sucking monster looked like he was wearing a gillisuit?
Yeah, a little bit.
It had all the frilly, it just was, it was kind of this, other than the really noticeable, like, oval mouth that was over the top.
Yeah.
Considering that had nothing to do with how they attacked people. This big oval mouth with, like, weird teeth and, and that you think that looks scary. Wait until you see my hands.
Yeah.
But it was like he was getting ready to, like, squat down and, like, take a sniper's position with the Gilla suit on. So just something else I noticed. I just thought was comical. I mean, there's a lot of stuff because of the time period, but.
Definitely. Yeah. That was definitely a little off and a little weird, but it was the '60s. I don't have high expectations for the production quality in some aspects like that, but
no. But I mean, I think that regardless of the quality, it's not the quality of the costume as much as it is the design influence.
Oh yeah,
like somebody back there was like, let's put him in a suit that makes him kind of look shaggy and like a swamp monster. Meanwhile, he lives on like an arid planet.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I was making a point.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. It's just sometimes it doesn't seem to connect. Like sometimes I see stuff like that and I'm like, they're just going for shock factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joe, we're gonna wrap her up. Where can we find your musings and thoughts? You've got Twitter, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, look, this is about the only thing that I even, and when I say keep up with, and let's pump the brakes here. Let's pull the throttle. When I say the only thing I keep up with, it could sometimes be like a tweet a week, but I'm always on Twitter. Like I use it for.
All right, so it looks like we lost Joe, but that's okay because we'll just move forward. I apologize for the difference in audio quality. We went from Skype to not Skype, so this might be better. Yay! So our next episode is Charlie X. It's episode 3 of season 1 of the original series. That'll be with our guest Bruce Leslie from the Hero and Villain podcast.
Awesome.
And otherwise, we will talk to you guys in the future.
Ooh.
And that'll do us tonight for
There Are 4 Lights.
Remember, you can email us at thereare4lightspodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdsdomain, on Twitter at nerdsdomain, or over at our site, nerdsdom.com. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter while you're there. You can head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. A big thanks to 5 Year Mission for their music. You can find them at 5yearmission.net. Don't forget you can support us at patreon.com/nerdsdomain. And check out our shirts at /loot.